drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. The video I'm doing today is one I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and it's going to focus on what I consider to be 10 essential accessories that every drone pilot should have in their kit. And these are items that I use on a regular basis that I've picked up over time. Some I've owned a long time, some I've recently added to my kit. But each of the 10 of these are things that I find real value in that are relatively inexpensive to add to your drone. I see a lot of people putting clips out that talk about, they'll rattle off a list of 92 things you should be adding to your drone without really explaining why. I don't understand that. I don't find a lot of value in that. So what I'm trying to do with this channel and this video in particular is to give you my experience with the products I'm talking about and how they've helped me become a better pilot, or maybe they've made my droning experience safer or more fun or more interesting. And each of these 10 have their own unique benefits, I guess, to add to the kit. Now I know I talk to a lot of pilots on this channel that have been around a long time, maybe even longer than I've been droning, and I apologize if I'm oversimplifying this stuff for you guys. You probably own all this stuff already, but for the pilots that have only been flying a little while, or maybe new pilots to the scene, this list will hopefully give you a pretty good place to start, because I know when I first got into droning, I thought to myself, what do I need next? What should I buy next for the drone to make things better? This list is what I consider to be the bare minimum of things that you should have in your kit, and each one of these I'll go through in a little bit of detail to give you a feel for why I bought it, what value I find in it, and maybe even a relative price of what you can pick it up for. And again, none of these are expensive. They're all really simple to use, and I think each of them individually will make droning a little better for you. So let me get started with the first one. The first one I'm going to talk about are prop guards. Now, prop guards are an interesting accessory because they've somehow got this reputation of being the training wheels of drones. People think you put those on when you first start flying, and as you get to be a better pilot, take the prop guards off, you don't need them anymore. I couldn't disagree more. I think prop guards are probably, of the 10 I'm going to speak about, the most essential accessory you can have for your drone for a lot of different reasons. Before I get into those reasons, let me just vent a little bit. So I'm flabbergasted that the drone manufacturers don't include prop guards when they sell you the drone. You're spending a lot of money on these magical flying machines, and the prop guards to me should be in the kit. When you open up that box, you've got spare blades, you've got spare accessories. Why are there not prop guards in that box? I don't understand it for the life of me. All right, let me get off the soapbox. So prop guards in general, I think, are safety devices for a couple of different reasons. For the drone, they're safety devices because once you put those prop guards on, when you're flying around, if you run into something, and I know none of you guys run into anything, right? I run into stuff all the time, I'll be honest. Let's be honest on this channel. When I run into something, it's not because I want to run into something, it's because the wind caught the drone, or I'm flying too close to a tree, and I'm trying to get that perfect shot, and I bang into a tree, or I bang into a wall. If I don't have those prop guards on my drone, the first thing that's going to impact that surface are the spinning blades at high speed. So you can imagine the physics behind that. Those blades are going to disintegrate. This drone is no longer going to levitate. It's going to fall to the ground, and if you're at a height, that's going to come crashing down. You've broken the blades, you've broken the drone, and there's a lot of damage, a lot of expensive damage. So having those prop guards installed means when I do inadvertently impact a tree or a wall, in most cases, my experience, it's going to bounce off the wall and continue to fly. Home run, right? Perfect situation. If it, at worst case, it's going to hit it hard enough where it's going to crack the prop guard and maybe damage the blade, maybe not damage the blade, but at least you'll survive that with less damage than actually running into that thing with the blade spinning. So first thing it does is it saves your drone from minor crashes, which are pretty much all you're going to have for the most part. The second thing it does, which I think is as important, probably more important, is it protects the people around you. I mean, none of us want to fly into somebody with a drone, and we do our best to stay away from crowds, to stay away from people, but if you're flying and the drone, you lose control for whatever reason, a gust of wind takes it, your controller fails, and this drone is heading for somebody, imagine their perspective. They're looking up seeing this flying machine coming at them at speed with 4 spinning blades. It's like a Cuisinart in the air, right? And they're thinking, oh, this is a terrible situation. Well, having prop guards on that drone at least gives you that little extra safety measure, knowing that you're doing all you can to protect somebody around you from those spinning blades. So the prop guards for me, there should be no discussion about them. They should be on every drone that lifts off the ground. And I don't know why there's such a backlash against prop guards. Now, there's a couple of different styles of prop guards. I'll talk about the P3 first. So I know Phantom 3 Professional. There's a couple of different styles of prop guards for the Phantom series. The P3s have two styles, primarily two styles of prop guards. The first one is removable, where you actually mount a small little plate underneath each of the arms under the motor, and then you can snap these prop guards on. So they're quick release, they snap on very quickly, you can snap them off quickly. I like those better than the ones that are mounted permanently, which is the other style of prop guards. The problem with the mounting permanently ones are they're less expensive, but then they're on the drone all the time. So if I'm trying to put the drone in a case and take it with me, it's too big to fit in a case, right? So having the removable prop guards means when I go to drone, I set up my drone, before I turn anything on, I snap on the prop guards, I go through my initialization period, and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to fly, and I'm flying safe. When I'm done flying for the day, I pop off the prop guards, put them in the case, put the drone away, and I'm good to go. I also like the removables because if I do hit something and crack a prop guard, I have a spare set of prop guards. I can just pull one out of the bag and pop it on and I'm off and going. So it gives me the ability to not have to buy a whole nother set of prop guards to replace it. I can replace them one at a time. So again, I know I'm on a soapbox with this, but if you don't have prop guards, get them today, use them. It's just going to make your drone safer and it's going to be a safer flyer in general. Second thing I'll talk about is kind of a cool device that I've discovered recently, and I have to admit that when I first saw this thing, man, it just screams snake oil to me. It just didn't seem like a product that would really do anything, and I thought it can't be that inexpensive and yet have that big an effect on my flying experience. What I'm talking about are range extenders. Now there's two schools of thought on range extenders. There's active range extenders and passive range extenders. The active range extenders require you to pop open your controller, take off the antenna, install some new devices, maybe even install some batteries. And what that does is enhance the signal digitally to give you a much greater distance for flights. I'm a little mixed on that. I mean, they probably work great, and the guys that use them love them, and I have a lot of friends that use them. For me, though, personally, I don't really need to fly 5 miles with my drone because the battery, for number one, the battery will take you 5 miles, but then I'm out of battery and I got to come right back. And that's not how I drone. When I drone, I go up, I go to a location, typically line of sight away from me, and I'm looking at a particular piece of interest, right? Something I'm trying to film and I'm trying to get a different angle on it. And I spend a lot of time in one area. I'm not the guy that's got to drive or fly 5 miles out and 5 miles back. So I don't really need that active one. The other problem with the active one for me, even though I'm an engineer, anytime I pop open a controller, it's such a delicate device that even if I install it perfectly, I'm always going to be worried that I didn't do something exactly right, and then I'm going to have a failure mid-flight in my drone somewhere where I can't get it back. So I don't like those kind of things. I like simple solutions that are less expensive. So the passive range extenders, which is what I'm talking about today, and there's a picture of one up there, is really just a piece of plastic that's a parabolic dish that has metal on the inside curvature of it, and what it does is it redirects the signal in one direction. So it's a reflective, and it's going to take the signal and redirect it out from that controller. Because if you don't use that, I mean, the physics behind it is simple. You've got the antenna, which broadcasts in a 360-degree radiation pattern, which means 50% of that signal is coming right back at you or behind you. It's doing nothing to help your drone. So having that parabolic antenna on there redirects all that signal out to the drone. So what it does for me is it does two things pretty quickly. It gives me a further distance, so if I want to fly further, I can. And I found that the distance increase for me 50%, even 60% further just by popping that antenna on there. But what it does more importantly for me is when I'm flying close, which I do most of the time, it improves the signal quality. So when I fly in areas that have a lot of background noise, it has a lot of Wi-Fi interference or power lines or something like that that would cause blocky video or maybe signal loss, you know, those kind of scary things happen. Having this parabolic on there means I'm not having any problems with that. It's rock solid signal. So anytime I use it, I've got that parabolic on, and the thing I like about it so much, it's so simple to install. You just slide it down over the antennas and you're done. There's no connections, no batteries, no nothing. When I'm done, I pull it off, fold up my controller, and put it right back in the case. Now, there's a couple of styles of the passive parabolics. There are two individual ones that you can buy where you slide one in each antenna, and they work okay. There's no problem with that. But I like the one that's actually joined together. So it's two dishes that are joined together like it is in the picture. And the reason I like that, for a couple of reasons, is when you slide it on the antennas, it moves those antennas into the perfect parallel position, which is exactly how they should be set up. The second thing that I like about it is I'm goofy as hell, and I'm always losing stuff, right? And if I've got two parabolic antennas, I guarantee you the first time I go out, I'm going to leave one in the grass someplace and come home and I'm missing an antenna. By having them both together in that setup, I'm never going to lose them. I take it off, I put it right in my kit, and I'm good to go. So again, very inexpensive. Blew me away. I'm here to tell you that thank goodness I didn't do a video talking about how goofy those things were before I realized that they really do work. So if you're not using those today, I'd suggest you pick them up. They're well less than $20 to add to your kit. Really improve your signal strength and allow you to fly in areas that you probably had trouble flying in before. The third thing I want to talk about is a sunshade. Now, many of you probably use this already or some contraption that helps you with this. I didn't use one for a long time, and what I do is, you know, I want to go out and fly on sunny days, right? It's the ultimate paradox, where if I'm going out in the sun, that's the worst time to try and see my screen, because that sun's going to reflect off the surface of the screen, and for me, no matter how bright I made it, I just couldn't get the detail I needed on that screen. I'm using an iPhone 6 Plus. So what I would end up doing is I'd end up finding a tree and hunker down under a tree to find a bit of shade, or I'd put a baseball cap on and kind of hover over the controller, and that kind of worked, but it didn't work well, and honestly, when I'm taking those shots and I'm trying to get the perfect shot of a particular point of interest, I want to have the best picture possible on that screen, and I couldn't do it without a sunshade. So by just adding a sunshade, it adds just enough shadow on top of that display that allows you to see what you're filming perfectly. So the sunshades are a relatively inexpensive addition. They make a couple of different models of them depending on the size of device you're using. So the smaller ones use the standard sunshade. If you're using a larger tablet like an iPad Air Mini or one of the Samsung tablets, anything bigger than like an 8 or a 9-inch tablet, there's a larger version of it. But all of them kind of fold up nice and flat, and you can stick them in your kit. The other thing it does for you, this is something I thought about after I started using it, having my phone on there when I didn't use the sunshade and had the brightness cranked all the way up to 100%, that's not really good for the phone. It's not designed to run that display at 100% for any length of time. And if I'm flying for 2 hours, you know, switching batteries out and taking off, switching batteries and taking off, I'm running that phone at 100% brightness for 2 hours, I'm damaging that display. So putting a sunshade on there allows me to get better longevity out of my device. It also allows me to see it wherever I'm walking. I can walk around the particular area I'm filming in and I can see that display great. So I would suggest you get a sunshade if you're not using one already. Again, a really relatively inexpensive device that's easy to add to your drone and will really enhance the experience for you. The next thing I'll talk about is a car charger. This is something that I've added to my collection recently, and the car charger is something that it's simple to use. You plug it into your cigarette lighter, the other end of it has a connection that will connect up to your drone battery, and of course there's different versions for the Phantom 3 and the Phantom 4 because the batteries are different, but I love this device. I mean, it's less than 20 bucks, and what it does is it just extends the day for me, because even if I'm flying with 3 or 4 batteries, I'll go to one location, I'll use a battery, I'll go to another location, use a battery. There's half the day, right? So by having this car charger, I can plug it in, and when I'm driving from that first location to the second location, I can be charging that battery. And even when I'm at the location and I'm up and flying, it's in the car still being charged. So when I run out of battery, I can walk to the car, I can pull the one off that's been charged, pop the dead one on, let that refresh, and it just gives me almost a continuous use of batteries by adding this little sub $20 device to my collection. And again, these are available on the internet. I'll put some links below. We sell them as well on our website. I'll put some links below where you can find them. But that's something that should be a no-brainer for you guys. It just makes the day better, and you always know you have a fresh battery on hand in your car if you want to charge it that way. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that you may already have, you may not have, but it's something that I didn't add initially, but I added pretty quickly after I bought my drone, and that's a carrying case for the drone. Now, when you buy the drones, in most cases, you're getting some type of case with it that you can carry. So if you bought one of the new Phantom P4s, you actually got this really cool custom styrofoam case, which works really well with the drone. You can use it for a period of time, but I tend to travel a lot with the drone, and that's great for like in the back of the car, but it's terrible for on a plane. I mean, the minute it runs up against something hard, it's going to chip. So I pretty much initially decided I had to get a case. And there's 2 styles of cases that you can buy. You can buy a hard case, you can buy a soft case. Then I had to decide, do I want a hard or a soft case? I decided I wanted the hard case because I travel more with the drone in airplanes and trains or the car or whatever. But then there are times that I'm at a beach or I'm in the woods or I'm at some remote location where carrying a hard case is just a pain in the neck because it's dead weight and you can't really wheel it. So when I looked around, I found a company, Microraptor, which I'm a huge fan of their products. Microraptor really is a company that thinks about what drone owners want and how drone owners use their products. So Microraptor came up with this clever design where they sell you a hard case and a soft case as a kit, and they actually make it where you can take the foam out of the hard case, transfer it over to the soft case, and use the soft case. So it gives you the best of both worlds without spending twice as much money on 2 different devices that have their own foam. Because even if you spent that money, you would still have to spend 10 minutes pulling everything out of the hard case and transferring it over to the soft case. So by being able to pick up the entire foam insert and move that over, everything that's in that insert goes with it. So it's a really clean way to go. The other thing I like about that combo is I may use the hard case to travel. That soft case is still available for me to pack with all the other accessories that I want to bring along, like a camera, a tripod, or a GoPro, whatever I want to bring in addition to the stuff that I'm carrying in the drone case. So having that combination for me is just the perfect solution to that problem of a case. But if you don't have a case, that's something you're going to want to buy eventually. It's a little more expensive than the sub $20 range. You're going to spend a couple $100 on it, but for me, you're going to spend $1,000 or better on your drone. You definitely want to have some way to protect it when you're moving it around. The last thing you want to do is have that in the back of the car bouncing around when you're traveling between sites. It's just going to damage it. So consider the case. But hard or soft case, if you're in that market, Microraptor makes a great combination case there that you can look at. And again, I'll probably put a link below to get you to that website. The next thing I want to talk about, number 6 on the list, are spare blades. And I know a lot of you carry spare blades with you, and I did a separate video on the different styles of blades that are out there. I carry a lot of blades with me because I'm gonna screw up. I'm gonna hit something and break a blade, or even if I don't, when you're flying in the air, you don't realize it, but there's moisture up there, there's dust particles up there, there's debris you're flying through. So over time, if you fly a couple hours, the blades are going to get dirty. And you can take them off and clean them, but I like to have a fresh set of blades with me just in case I'm flying a long time. I'll switch them about midway through. Now I carry two different styles of blades, and in the video I did prior I talked about the differences between them, but fundamentally there's two types of blades you can use. There's the standard weight blade, which is a very flexible blade. It's a great general purpose blade. I use that for most of my flying, but I also carry two sets of the carbon fiber blades, which are the black blades, which are a stiffer blade, and they're really, really good for rough conditions. So if there's a lot of wind or you're flying in an area where there may be gusts of wind, those carbon fiber blades are great for keeping the position stable. The downside of the carbon fiber blades, and maybe it's just me, but they tend to be noisier. So that's why I don't leave them on the drone all the time, because they don't flex as much as the weight blades. So I think they're just noisier when they're up in the air. And when I'm flying, I try to be as unobtrusive as possible. So the last thing I want is to make a drone noisier to be around people. So I keep the black blades with me and use them when I need them, but most of the time I'm flying with the white blades. But there's nothing worse than being out on a shoot, you know, flying for a little bit of time and you damage a blade. Maybe you didn't even hit anything, you just landed in tall grass and you got a lot of sap on it, right? And you can't fly with it because it's flying unbalanced now. I don't want to end the day early, so I carry extra blades with me. They're a relatively inexpensive accessory to add to your kit, and you know, I'd suggest you carry a couple extra sets. I typically fly with the 4 on the drone and 2 extra sets of 4, so 8 of the white and 4 of the blacks, just so I have a couple extra sets with me out there in the field. Never mix the blades. That's another problem. A lot of drone flyers think, well, I'll put a couple of the carbon fibers on and a couple of the white ones on. Huge mistake. That drone's going to have a real hard time staying stable up there because the weights are different and everything else. The spin velocity is different. So stick with the white or stick with the black, but I'd say carry a set of both with you, just so if you get into a situation where you need that extra stability, you've got the black ones with you. The next thing I'm going to talk about is one of the most expensive outside of the case accessories that I bought, and it's a lens kit. And the lens kits are available in a variety of different styles. You'll see people that sell the lens kits where there are 5 in a kit. There's some that just sell the individual lenses. And what the lenses do for you, the ones I use are called neutral density filters. And what they do is basically cut down on the amount of light that is let into the camera. And they're extremely effective in bright sunny days, or if you're filming over a lake or a body of water where there's reflective sun off the water. And what they do is actually cut down that sunburst or that glare and really enhance and make the video a lot crisper. So it allows you to sort of fly in conditions that are extremely bright, especially if you're at the shore, and get that perfect video. And the neutral density filters are available in a bunch of different styles. They have an ND2, an ND4, an ND6, or an ND8, sorry. And you might want to carry a couple of those with you. Again, they're fairly expensive. They're $20, $25 a lens. I carry a set with me. I find that even though I have the set with me, my go-to lens is either an NT2 or an ND4 most of the time. So maybe if you're starting out, just pick up the ND4 and that'll get you started. I've seen a group of lenses recently that you can actually change the density of them by spinning the ring. They're a little more expensive. I haven't messed with those because it's, for me, simple is better. And the ND4, I just slide it on the front of the lens of the Phantom and I can go off and fly and it does the job. The only other lens I carry is a clear lens. So I keep a clear lens on there all the time just because I feel like the glass that's on the front of that is pretty much indestructible, but I just don't want to chip it, right? So I've got this extra lens on there that is clear, that protects the glass of the actual camera. I can take it off and clean it. If it gets really dirty or chipped, I can throw it away and buy another one. That's a really inexpensive lens to have, so you may want to consider one of those. But if you do buy lenses, there are inexpensive lens carrying kits out there. Don't buy the lens and just throw it in your box because it'll get scratched in no time at all. And once it gets scratched, it's going to ruin every video you shoot. So the lens carrying cases are 10 bucks or less, 15 bucks maybe, and they'll hold up to 5 or 6 lenses. There's a slot in there for extra micro SD cards. I would recommend if you buy a lens, the first thing you buy is a case to carry that lens. It's just going to protect your valuable investment in the lenses. The next one I'm going to talk about is number 8 on the list. It's a logbook. And I know I'm going to sound super nerdy by talking about this, but I think a logbook is important for a couple of different reasons. Me personally, I like a logbook because I like to keep track of where I've shot at different locations, the time of day, maybe what lenses I used, maybe interesting facts about the location. I may jot down the GPS coordinates because a lot of the videos that I'm going to put up, people want to know where we flew and where that was located, and having GPS coordinates allows them to find that exact beach that we were on or location we shot from. The other reason I think a logbook is important is because in addition to the nerd in me wanting to remember all the places I shot, all of us know the FAA at this point is considering a bunch of different bills about commercial licensure for the drones. And I think one of the things they're going to demand when you go for that license, and again, it's just speculation on my part, but I think they're going to need some exhibition of your experience as a pilot. And you're not going to be able to just walk in there and go, hey, I've been flying drones for 2 years, I know what I'm doing. That's going to be hard to prove. So if you have a logbook, what you've got is a hard copy, in front of you that says, look, I started 2 years ago. I've flown this many hours on this many different locations. Here are the GPS coordinates. Here's the time I was in the air. And you can prove pretty quickly that you're an experienced pilot because you've got this dirty dog-eared logbook with you that you've been keeping track of since the beginning of time. The other thing it does is it speaks volumes to your professionalism as a pilot. So being able to produce something like that means that you take this recreation very seriously, and you can prove that you've been a responsible pilot because you've taken time to write down time of day, location, hours in the air, maybe how many batteries you went through, that type of stuff, which again seems like boring minutia to most people, but if the point comes for licensure and they demand some type of logbook to prove that you've actually flown those hours, you'll have it done. So they're a cheap thing to pick up. They're fun to use. If you're not into it, then don't, but I would recommend, for me, having a hard copy of the hours I flew that I could prove that I flew those hours is a real big benefit, in addition to the nostalgia of looking back on the book, the first flight I took and where I took it and what I was doing when I flew that, right? And how long I spent in the air and all that cool stuff. So that's the logbook. Next thing I'll talk about is spare batteries. And I know a lot of you, when you buy the drone, it's a big expense and you're thinking, my gosh, I can't spend another $150 on a battery. But I'll make a case for it. Maybe it'll make sense to some of you. For me, the event of droning, right? So I decide I'm going to go out and drone on a Saturday. Getting ready to drone, making sure my batteries are charged, all my gear is put in the case, lining up the locations, the research I do on where I'm going to go to shoot that day, checking the weather. Like, there's a lot that goes into that day that having an extra battery just extends that experience for me. All that work I do up front to get to the location, to only have 25 or 30 minutes in the air, it's hard to justify that. So having that second battery, even that third battery, allows me to extend that pleasure of droning for the day a lot longer at that location. It allows me to hit maybe multiple locations that are a drive away from my home. So if I'm driving an hour to get to one location and I've got spare batteries with me, now I can hit the second or third location and really get some value out of the day. The other thing it'll do for you, and this is something that I didn't think about much when I first started adding batteries to my collection, but you're going to want to trade up someday. You're going to take the P3 and decide, I want the P4. You're going to go on eBay or someplace or a friend and you're going to sell that P3. You sell that P3 with 2 extra batteries or 3 extra batteries, it now becomes a very compelling purchase to that person. So adding them, you can use them in the meantime, and when you go to sell it, it's going to be worth more to the guy that you're selling it to. So I would suggest, if you've got 1 battery today, get a second. If you've got 2, get a third. I fly with 4 batteries, which sounds ridiculous, but I just know when I go out that I'm not going to be restricted by the number of batteries or time that I can be in the air, because I shoot all different times of the day, and I like to have the freedom and flexibility to fly as much as I want. The last thing I'll talk about is a device that's very easy to add to your drone. I don't know why, again, this isn't included with the drone initially. It actually should be included in the design of the drone, and it's called a Gimbal Guard. And it's basically a piece of carbon fiber that mounts to the 2 legs on the bottom of the drone. And what it does is it presents a bridge across those legs that when you're landing the drone, if you don't have it on, those 2 arms come down and they can land on a flat surface. The problem is, if you're landing on a flat surface and there's tall grass or there's branches sticking up, you may land that drone fine, but that grass or branches are going to fit up between those legs and they're going to bang into your camera. It's going to hit your gimbal. So having this bridge on there kind of mashes down whatever it is you're landing on, and it'll give you a soft landing. It'll prevent anything from coming up and hit your gimbal. They're very easy to add. They basically, there's a model out for the P3 and a different model out for the P4, and they snap onto the arms. In some cases, they actually cable tie to the arms, or they screw a clamp together to hold them onto the arms. However you attach them to the arms, that's a piece that should be on your drone every time you fly. And again, most of the cases will accommodate that staying on the drone. I've added it to both my drones pretty much the day I bought them. I've never taken them off. They've been on the drone the whole time. And I've had some landings where I guarantee you I would have damaged my gimbal. Not that I did it intentionally, but you can't really tell if you're landing across the field coming down. Even if you have your camera pointing straight down, you can't tell that that branch is coming up towards you when you land, and you may actually damage your drone, or a rock. You could hit a rock coming in, and those 2 arms fit on both sides of it, and the gimbal gets hit by the rock. So the Gimbal Guard is, again, a less than a $20 device. Most of them that we sell one that comes with a little shade for the lens on the camera, as well as a gimbal lock to lock your camera in place. But you can get the Gimbal Guards individually as well, and they're not expensive. I mean, I think our kit is like 15 bucks. You can buy the Gimbal Guards for probably 10 bucks. I would suggest you add that today. So those are the 10 that I've used over the years that I've added to my collection. I find tremendous value in each one of those, and pretty much each of them I use every day I shoot. Hopefully you found this useful. And again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please leave the comments below and I'll get back to you right away. I do have a couple of links below that talk about the products I'm talking about available on our website. Don't feel like you have to go there and buy them. I'm just putting them there if you're looking for a place to buy them. You can find them on Amazon, you can find them on eBay. I'm not here to sell products, but I did want to give you the opportunity to pick up the ones that I've shown you pictures for if you're interested in them. And again, we appreciate you guys watching this. We hope you find value in it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave any comments you'd like below. If you hated the video, tell me you hated the video. We'll do a better job next time. I'm just a regular guy that flies drones for fun. I'm hoping you're enjoying this stuff, and if you are, subscribing helps us with the channel, get a wider audience, and we appreciate everything. So thanks very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.